Hello, I'm Margie, and I'm here to tell you the story of the most honest man in town. Now, Joseph Bates was a retired sea captain, and he had learned about the seventh-day Sabbath, and he was so excited about it, he wanted to share it with the world. Well, he figured if he went as far west as possible, that would be a good place to start, and it ended up that as far west as possible was right here in Michigan. So when he got here, the Lord gave him a dream, and in that dream he saw a village. Now, he didn't know the name of the village. He had woke up before the Lord told him that. So the next day, he decided he would hire himself a carriage driver. And that carriage driver drove him for 3 days. And finally, he came to the village that he recognized from his dream. And he said, "Driver, what's the name of this village?" And he said, "Sir, this is Jackson, Michigan." He said, "This is the place the Lord showed me in my dream. There's someone here that needs to know about the seventh-day Sabbath." Well, he didn't know where he should start, so he decided he'd go to the local blacksmith shop. So when he got there, he talked to the owner, a man named Daniel Palmer. He said, "Sir, I have some Bible truth that I would like to share with you. Would you mind if I stayed and shared it with you?" And Daniel Palmer said, "If you don't mind if I continue working, you can share whatever you'd like." So Joseph Bates took his poster and he put it up on the wall, and he started to share some of the Bible truth that he had learned, especially focusing on the seventh-day Sabbath. Well, when he got all done, Daniel Palmer said to him, "Sir, what was your name?" "Bates." "You have the truth." And Daniel Palmer and his wife ended up becoming the first people that believed in the seventh-day Sabbath here in Michigan. Well, Joseph Bates couldn't stay in Michigan. He had to go back to Massachusetts where he lived. And he was there for about 3 years, and still the Sabbath truth was not getting out nearly fast enough for him. So he decided that he would come back to Michigan once again, and he would share it in some other fields. So when he got there, he stayed with the Palmers, and that night the Lord gave him another dream. In this dream, the Lord showed him that he was sailing in a ship, and he was going west, 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 and he was told to get off at Port Battle Creek. Well, there are no oceans in Michigan, and especially none near a place called Battle Creek. And Joseph didn't even know if there was a Battle Creek. So he got up in the morning and he said to Daniel Palmer, "I've had this dream. Is there a Battle Creek near here?" And Daniel Palmer said, "Well, yes, there is. It's about 40 miles west of here." He says, "You can be there in no time if you take the train." Well, Joseph Bates didn't let any grass grow under his feet. He went right out and bought his ticket. He got on the train and he started heading west. And as the train was chugging west, Joseph Bates started having a conversation with the Lord. "Lord, you have told me that I'm supposed to take this message and I'm supposed to share it with someone in Battle Creek. I didn't even know there was a Battle Creek. I don't know who I'm supposed to speak to in Battle Creek about this." And the Lord spoke to him with an audible voice. He said, "Go to the postmaster and ask for the most honest man in town." Well, as soon as that train stopped, Joseph Bates was off and he headed straight to the post office. And he talked to the postmaster. He said, "Sir, who is the most honest man in this town?" The postmaster said, "Well, that's simple. That's Penny Hewitt. His real name is David Hewitt. He lives over on the corner of Cass and Van Buren." He said, "He's so honest. He's a local peddler, so he sells his wares, and if he overcharges you accidentally, he'll walk miles and miles just to bring back 1 penny. So we call him Penny Hewitt." Joseph Bates says, "I have to meet this man." So he took off on a run and he went straight to David Hewitt's house. And he knocks on the door, and David Hewitt came and answered the door. And he said, "Sir, I understand that you are the most honest man in this town. If that's true," he said, "I have some Bible truth that I would like to share with you." So David Hewitt says, well, sir, why don't you come in and have breakfast with us? And when we finish breakfast, you can have morning worship for us. Well, Joseph Bates, if you gave him an inch, he would take a mile. And so he woofed down his meal, and he took his poster and put it up on the wall, and he started to share with the Hewitt family all of the things that were on that poster. Now, his morning worship went from morning to lunchtime, but Joseph Bates wasn't done yet. It went from lunchtime to supper time, but Joseph Bates wasn't done yet. He went from supper time to when the sun set. And when the sun set, both David and Olive Hewitt had accepted every Bible truth that Joseph Bates had shared with them. They learned about the seventh-day Sabbath, about the sanctuary in heaven. They learned about all of these precious Bible truths that we hold so dear. Well, because they were honest, and because they had accepted all this truth, they couldn't keep it in. They had to share it with their neighbors. So they shared it with their friends and neighbors, and pretty soon they had a nice group of people coming into their house, and they would have worship every seventh-day Sabbath. Well, pretty soon, more and more people kept coming until there were finally so many people they wouldn't all fit into the Hewitt's house. So they decided that they would build a small meeting house. It was about the size of a 2-car garage, and that served them for about 5 years. Well, more and more people kept coming, and pretty soon James and Ellen White had been invited to come to Battle Creek to start the publishing work. So in 1855, when they got there, there was already a group of Sabbath-believing believers. Now, they didn't have a name. They were just known as the people that kept the seventh-day Sabbath, but there was really no name to them. It's like having a baby without a name. So here they all are meeting in this little chapel, and more people kept coming, and pretty soon they were hanging out the windows. There just wasn't enough room for them. So they decided they were going to build a second meeting house. And we have a replica of that here at Adventist Village. Now, what is the significance of this second meeting house and the most honest man in town? Well, it turns out that we didn't have a name, and we needed to have a name. So when it came time for us to choose a name, it was David Hewitt who made the suggestion that we call ourselves Seventh-day Adventists. He said, look, if we call ourselves Seventh-day Adventists, we can start a Bible study just like that. Seventh day, we worship on the seventh day according to the fourth commandment. And this Adventists were waiting for Jesus to come back. So they took a vote and they adopted the name, and that's why we're called Seventh-day Adventists. We're thankful for that suggestion from the most honest man in town. And that's our story of the most honest man in town.